Don't always be so afraid of things collapsing. There's understood that the village itself is meant to start falling apart every few hundred years, and everybody needs to be called on with their particular village skill set to help rebuild the thing, redream the thing, reinvest the thing, and stay in a position of openness where divine ground can make itself clear. So one day, this lad was in the temple. He was in the synagogue, and he made the prayer that he makes every day. He says, Lord, 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 listen to me, please, I'm begging you. Help me win the lottery. Please help me win the lottery. Change my life. Well, he comes back, and he comes back, and he comes back, and just nothing seems to happen. And so one day he's in there, and he's bemoaning his lot for the 19th time or the 19,000th time. And suddenly a voice comes from everywhere and nowhere and says, Jacob, for goodness sake, buy a ticket. Aren't we all a little like Jacob on occasion? You know, we want communication with God. We want it to go back and forth, but sometimes we miss some vital information. I think what I want to talk about today is something that I'm calling the great rite of renewal, which is the crisis, the healing crisis in a way, at the center of what I would call initiatory Christianity, which for me is essential, real Christianity. So with that in mind, I would be thinking about Jonah. Do you remember Jonah? Jonah is somebody that chimes with me. Do you remember that Jonah, he received word from God that he was to go to a dangerous place called Nineveh. Nineveh. Is that stirring anything in your Sunday school memories? Jonah has to go to Nineveh. It is a dangerous place. It is absolutely swung out of relationship with God, and he has to put them back on track in some way. But this is a dangerous old road that the lad is going on, and he might not make it through. There is two good words. There is peril and there is jeopardy waiting for him at Nineveh. You know, you wait for God to speak to you, and finally he does, and you don't want to hear it. So a little bit like us, Jonah turns and he says, what's the place as far away from Nineveh as I can find? And that would be a place called Tarshish. Tarshish, I'm going to head out there on a boat. And as I go, rather like Coyote, I will rub out the trail behind me. And hopefully God will not spot me. Hopefully I can disappear. Indeed, indeed, indeed. Well, you will recall, I am sure, that the weather twists and turns around the boat. It grows macabre. It seems that the sky is going to fall on the boat. The green teeth of the sea underneath are giving the thing a good swirl. But at the very center of the boat, Jonah sleeps. The very cause of the problem, you can imagine, is sleeping. He is asleep in his own mind. And in a myth, when you are deeply asleep, troubling things can happen around you. Well, we remember that the sailors lobbed a lot of things over the side of the boat until finally they put the pieces together. They go down and they talk to Jonah, and it is abundantly clear that he is the source of the commotion. And we remember that in the end, he volunteers to be lobbed over the side. They make their libations and their prayers, and the sailors make it on for another day. What happens to Jonah? Do you remember? Down, he's consumed by an enormous fish, often called a whale, certainly a large fish of some kind, down into the belly of the things, into that initiatory time frame of 3 days and 3 nights. And I will read you some of the prayer that he makes down there when he submits finally and utterly to the conditions of his predicament. In my distress, I called to the Lord. In my distress I called to the Lord, and he answered me. From deep in the realm of the dead I called for help, and you listened to my cry. You hurled me into the depths, into the very heart of the sea. And the currents swirled around me, all your waves and breakers swept over me. I said, I have been banished from your sight. I have been banished from your sight. Yet I will look again towards your holy temple. The engulfing waters threatened me, the deep sea surrounded me. Seaweed was wrapped around my head. Seaweed was wrapped around my head. To the roots of the mountains I sank down, the earth beneath me barred me in forever. But you, Lord my God, brought my life up from the pit. But you, Lord my God, brought my life up from the pit. When my life was ebbing away, I remembered you, Lord, and my prayer rose to you, to your holy temple. Those who cling to worthless idols turn away from God's love to them. But I, with shouts of grateful praise, will sacrifice to you. What I have vowed, I will make good. I will say, salvation comes from the Lord. Well, the Lord heard it, and he commanded the fish, and it spat Jonah out onto dry land. Well, of course, Jonah then goes off and has other adventures over in Nineveh, as you may recall. He follows it, but he struggles as he goes, as we struggle as we go. But there's a few things around that story that I want to talk about today. I can't help feeling, I keep coming back to an image, it's a semi-dream image for me, that many of the denominations in the Christian church are in the mouth of that great fish, and they have two options. One option is to keep gazing out of the mouth at the secular world, keep taking its hints and its cues from them, keep auditioning its polemics for the wants of 2025. Because the other option is to commit to the consumption by the fish, to go down into the initiatory depths for the 3 days and for the 3 nights and find out just what sacred information is waiting down there. And I wonder if it is only when we submit to the immensity of that experience that we can make a prayer as beautiful as Jonah's, and maybe perhaps God listens. The great rite of renewal. Now, I bring it up because in rites of passage, the understanding always, you would also get this in medieval alchemy. If you're trying to turn from lead to gold, at some point in that process, you are going to experience what we call catabasis, a great descent, a disillusion. In other words, no handrails, very little to hold on to. And whether you are Christian or ostensibly religious or not in any way, there's always going to be a time in your life where there's very little to hold on to. Some of you will be going through that right now as I am talking to you. And I sit with solidarity with you, as people have with me when I've been suffering like that. But I suppose in the context of the church, submit to the divine information. Now, to be a bit more site-specific about it, I live in England. I have lots of friends in the Anglican church, the Protestant church. I'm Orthodox, but we talk across the hedge. We're all brothers and sisters in Christ. But certainly that is people can barely remember what that church stands for at the moment. And there's great rupture in many beautiful churches all over the country. And I really understand how frightening that can be when it's been an institution and a community, more importantly, and a parish that you've been part of for a long time. But I would just again have to say, you are in an initiatory moment. Culturally, we are an initiatory moment. If we keep looking out at the rinky-dink world, if we keep gazing out at a world that has little interest in us, we may not be completely consumed by the fish. That's the contract. We stay as a curio in the mouth of the fish. But the initiatory move, the mythic move, the profoundly Christian move, I would suggest, is actually to be consumed and to see what down there in the dark night of the soul God really has to say to us. In the old Arthurian stories, when Arthur sleeps at Camelot, when he is asleep in his own mind, dangerous things happen, but also things of renewal in Camelot. In the Russian stories of Ivan, there's many Ivan stories, it's when Ivan sleeps that his faithless brothers betray him. When Jonah sleeps, of course, in the boat, the sky falls on everybody's head. I believe that Christ is always telling us to wake up, to wake up, to wake up. And I would suggest he may be telling his churches to wake up, and to get back to the essential. We've all been Jonah. We've all run in the opposite direction. Are we asleep in our own mind? Don't always be so afraid of things collapsing. The world that we live around these days is so self-sufficient. We can go months or years without seeing our neighbours, but in any real clan or tribal system, there's understood that the village itself is meant to start falling apart every few hundred years, and everybody needs to be called on with their particular village skill set to help rebuild the thing, redream the thing, reinvest the thing, and stay in a position of openness where divine ground can make itself clear. So I wonder if the church has become too glossy, too prosperity gospeled, too slick. Maybe something like this is absolutely inevitable. But submit to the great rite of renewal, say I.